Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. Barely awake, but feeling very good on a Monday morning. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I think, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I think he's feeling pretty much the same way. Joining me today, as per the usual, my cohort, my colleague, my partner in crime, you're almost brother from another mother status. One, Zach Celadonia. Zach, I just don't want to steal all of Brian's taglines there, but it's good to have you. And are we at the point of the season where we say to people, we told you so? How's it going, man?
Maybe not brother from another mother. Maybe we're like second cousins twice removed at this point, which is cool because little tidbit, not many people know this, but Christian Ponder is actually like third cousins with me or something along the lines of that. So wish he had a little bit better luck with his NFL career, but cool fun fact, I'm third cousins with a former starting NFL quarterback, first round pick. Also number 7, which, that stuff's kind of weird. But to answer your question, yeah, I think we are about to that point. I'm always ready to tell the people a good old fashioned I told you so. But as of late, I really haven't had to say a whole lot of anything because Kenny Pickett's doing all the talking with his play on the field.
Hell yeah, man. We have, for I'd say the first time ever, we're a little more prepared than usual, even though we're probably up a ridiculous amount of time from the night before. And we have some actual topics to talk about today. Yeah, I'll figure out a way to get this on every screen here, but
ding ding, sparkle sparkle.
Yes. You know what, that's like one of the things we make fun of when I was working in marketing, was how people would overuse like the starbursts and the ribbons and like oh man, the worst
slideshow.
What's that?
Like the Microsoft slideshow.
Oh, dude, like, yeah, like those transitions, but like just the clip art stuff. And, there's certain things that you don't need to preclude with Made in the USA. You know what I mean? If you're down the street in, BFE, Pennsylvania or Ohio, pretty good chances are that it's made right there, but the American flag's going to be on display. One of the worst corporate, this is a derailment here, but one of the worst corporate logos I ever saw, and couldn't talk this company out of not using it, was they had it all, man. The grandkids, the pets, and everything. And their logo was like the state of Ohio with an American flag transposed with like a cat and a dog, and then like their initials, but the initials like acronym type thing, not like SCU. It was like S period C period U period. I'm like, what is this hot garbage? Which that was
too much going on in the soup.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like Joe's Plumbing or something, and that's just on the side of your van, that's like one thing. But like when you're selling something like nationally, like nobody really cares that you're in Ohio or whatever. It's like I don't want to give away who it was, so I will say no further. But yeah, maybe some actual topics. And we were saying, we told you so on some of this. Has Kenny Pickett arrived? We thought he arrived before. I got to go through what myself and Brian even did in the offseason, but this is where we said the Steelers might be 9 or 10 win team and maybe in the mix for a playoff spot, and maybe would have been in the mix for the division lead had a game or two went differently, particularly the first Baltimore Ravens game. So none of this has come to a surprise to any of us here within the confines, I guess we'd say, of the SCU studios or studio. But to everyone else, man, you're starting to see, like the light bulbs come, they're popping, man. They're on the head and they're popping.
Well, I'd rather them be like that than resistant to the fact of what's happening around them, because there are still some people like that are holding on with both hands for Kenny Pickett to be bad, and he's just not. It's pretty clear to see that he's developing at a rate that, albeit at times you wish was faster, but it's definitely more than acceptable the pace at which he's developing. He's coming through in big moments. And it's not always the prettiest for Kenny, but he gets it done. The kid just gets it done. He's a winner. He's a gamer. I think Tomlin said it perfectly, and I'll probably butcher this, but he said something along the lines of, he's a gamer. He's not afraid of the moment. He doesn't run away from it. He runs towards it. Like it's not almost like it is like whenever the lights are the brightest and whenever the moment is at its most important and the game is at its most intense point, that's when Kenny Pickett plays his best. And beyond anything else, touchdowns, interceptions, QBR, which he has been improving in anyway, above all else, that's what you need in a quarterback, in particular a franchise quarterback, is that ability to play your best when your team needs you to play the best. And these past 2 games, they've been boring games. He hasn't played particularly bad, I would say. It's debatable, I guess, the pass game, because some people thought it was a very poor performance against the Raiders, whereas I really didn't. I thought he had a couple misfires. I thought he played rather fine, but then he comes through and closes the game out in a big way, a career-defining way. And fast forward to this week versus the Ravens, and he does it again. I felt like the game was pretty boring from a aerial assault standpoint. We really didn't do much on offense through the air outside of a couple good throwing catches between Pickens had a nice grab, Deontay, Freiermuth. They were involved, but not as much as you would hope to see. But it is Steelers Ravens, and I think that needs to be considered and talked about when you're discussing the flow of this game. Is you shouldn't have expected really Kenny to throw for 3 touchdowns, 400 yards, and win in a blowout type fashion. The air game was pretty boring on both sides, except for freaking Mark Andrews, of course, who I was playing against in fantasy and decided that he's the only guy that Tyler Huntley looked at all game, and we couldn't cover him, man. We should have triple covered him by the second quarter, but I'm getting off the rails now. The point is, Kenny Pickett, he is showing up in the big moments. He's playing well when we need him to the most. He's improving, and I got a stat for you, a real quick stat. This is fun. I have no idea what XQR means, but it's a real stat. It's one of those next-gen stats, and context clues lead me to believe.
It's a real stat. I have no idea what it is, but it's real.
It's real, okay? And I'll tell you why it's real, okay? So XQR, it says, while trailing by 1 score in the fourth quarter, the best quarterback rating, or best XQR, is Mahomes with 95.1. Number 3, we'll skip number 2 for now. We'll go back to number 2 in a minute. Number 3 is Joe Burrow with 92.9. Now, number 2 is Kenny Pickett with 93.7. So he's in a top 3 list that is associated with the fourth quarter and being down by a score with Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I no clue what XQR is, but context clues tell me enough that means he's got ice in his veins.
I think it stands for cube, because that's what Mike Tomlin said. He loves his cube. We know where our cube is capable of doing. And dude, don't say cube. It sounds too much like pube. And we just got through. I don't know if you listen to me and Brian. Brian didn't like the fact that I called the period between Christmas and New Year's the taint. So it's like,
that is a tough word, man. That's like worse. Moist, it doesn't really bother me personally, but taint's kind of that's stretching it a bit with the old comfortability meter.
You don't want to stretch the taint, my friend, and that could lead to some bad things. Yeah, no, there's a little bit more on the Kenny Pickett train here. This comes from NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter, compiled this one, although I was just too lazy. Kenny Pickett, last 4 full games, important full games, 77 of 122. So that is good for, I don't know, because I did the math wrong.
Like 60% on the nose?
Yeah, 63.1. So there we go. 783 yards, 3 total touchdowns, and 4-0. And the Steelers, man, it's rough. I made these comments many times about playing the Ravens with backup quarterbacks. You go all the way back to like Byron Leftwich, I think 2012 or something like that. Charlie Batch, in that era, 2013, and maybe I have those flipped. Michael Vick at home when the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. With Antonio Brown,
a huge drop too. because
Yeah.
they say the ball comes off Vic's hands different because he's a lefty. I'll never forget that because Antonio Brown would never drop the ball, but he had a drop in the end zone, and people said afterwards, well, it's because the ball like spins different off a lefty's hand. So
It was so miserable. I mean, at least Landry Jones was able to find Antonio Brown, but when you have like who's arguably at the time the greatest wide receiver in the game, or the best,
Yeah.
at least it's like it'd be like having Justin Jefferson and not being able to get anything done. Oh wait, that was another game this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of, I know this will sound like sacrilege. I played Fields last week instead of Burrow. I lost by 3 points and wasn't in my other title game. The SCU one, it looks like I'm going to end up winning. I would have actually won my other league too. 3 points. Come on, Justin Fields. You could have got that with your feet at least. And then,
oh man, dude, I know,
Mike
dude.
Evans.
My weekend was almost ruined because of fantasy football. It still might be. And I'm starting to understand the people that have said, I've heard over the years, people like, you go through phases of fantasy football and sometimes you even quit for like a year or two because you're like, this is just, I don't understand how all year this team does well, or all year this guy's clicking on all cylinders, and it takes one game. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, dude, throwing for like 400 yards.
I
You know
almost
the Niners defense? Me, of course.
Oh, I almost set Devontae Adams too. I did sit Josh Jacobs, which didn't really burn too much, but I'm like, they're not going to be able to move the football. Like there's just a lot of ridiculousness going on. That particular game had the most of it between Purdy and Stidham. Like, what? And
Dude, it's worse than gambling. It's worse than gambling.
Yeah.
I mean, fantasy football kind of is a subcategory of that if you're playing for money, but it's like it's almost worse than gambling because gambling's usually, unless you have a futures bet going on, it's just a 1 week, 1 game thing. Fantasy, when you like are disappointed in that fashion, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it's the first thing I thought this morning when I woke up.
Yeah, but no, you didn't. You were still flying high on the cloud 9 that we're on from beating the
Thank
Ravens
God
with the
for
game-winning
it. Yeah,
drive.
I mean, otherwise, who knows?
I was so. Have you ever been so nervous? Like we talked about games being boring, like the Panthers game, but this game was not boring. This game had
You
me
don't
on
think so?
pins and needles, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, low scoring, but that's what you expect. But I was on pins and needles the entire time. I was nervous. I'm like, oh, you know what? Hopefully the young guy gets it done, doesn't make any mistakes or anything like that. So, on the topic still of Kenny, the GOAT. Let's take a look at some of his numbers here. I think I have it. Do I have it large enough on screen? Maybe that some people could see it, but I sorted these games by yards, 316 yards, 231, 221, 221, and then everything else is under like 200. Oh, just kidding. These were Ben Roethlisberger's rookie numbers. My bad. I always have to bring that up where he has like a couple of touchdowns here or there and took some sacks and some sub 60% completion games. He had a lot of them actually as a rookie, a handful, 60 or lower, 4 of them there. So actually Kenny's numbers, I'll pull Kenny's numbers up here. Pretty comparable. He still had a 300 some yard game. That was against Buffalo, his first full start. No multiple touchdown pass games just yet, and he's still getting above the 60% completion here or there. There we go. 4, just about the same categories, right? A lot of similarities there, Zach. A lot of similarities. You got to remember though, Kenny is Kenny and Ben is Ben. And Benny is Benny, and Kenny is Kenny. Kenneth Shane comeback Pickett. But 2 game-winning drives, back-to-back weeks. The Steelers are still alive. They're still in this chase. They're still in the race, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm glad you pointed out that Kenny is Kenny and Ben is Ben, or Benny is Benny, because that's important to remember too. Is a lot of people will hear because it's common to see this time of year, especially on Twitter and other social media sites, that people try to point out, and rightfully so, that most, not all, but most good first-round quarterbacks struggle their first year. They do enough that gets you encouraged. They win some games. They have some good plays, a couple bad plays, a lot of bad plays. But there's a reason why we bring up these stats of guys like most recently Trevor Lawrence, who like there were people who thought he might have already been the bad pick of that draft. Not me, but
no.
Trevor Lawrence struggled. Obviously, Josh Allen gets thrown around a lot, but he struggled mightily. Lamar Jackson's numbers weren't that great. Ben himself, Peyton Manning, that one's obvious. That's a throwback. But a lot of these first-round quarterbacks it's very common for them to have not the sexiest stat sheet at the end of the year. What matters is the intangibles and the X factor moments and the progression that you see throughout the year. If they give you reason to believe that they can be something going forward, which Kenny is doing, like these other guys did, that is something you can cling on to and hope for next year. It isn't just about we're saying he's going to be Ben, we're saying he's going to be Josh Allen. We're not. It's just simple facts to point out that a lot of these guys who end up being great, Joe Burrow, they struggle as rookies. They get some things done and they show you glimpses of what they can be to get the fan base excited, but they aren't going to the Super Bowl. They aren't going to the Pro Bowl. If they do, it's a complete technicality, like Mac freaking Jones. Like it's rare for a quarterback to come in his first year, no matter who he is, and just be the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You had to bring up Mac Jones. Ugh. So Steelers, they got to hope the Jets could win in Miami, and the Jets don't really have anything to play for other than to be spoiler. And they probably
neither does Miami, though. They're out, right?
No, Miami's still kind of in this thing. So Steelers need Miami to lose and the Pats to lose, and of course we have a big Monday Night Football game with the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals that's coming up. And perhaps if Buffalo doesn't win this one, maybe they start sitting some starters and stuff because they won't be able to obtain the 1 seed or the bye. So you're hoping all these things fall into place. But stranger things have happened. Jaguars didn't have anything to play for last year either.
Exactly.
I have to mention here, though, even though we're saying Kenny has arrived, have we forgotten about Najee Harris? And what a monster!
Beast, dude.
What a monster game by Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren yesterday. They racked up some stats that were just uncanny against the third-ranked Baltimore Ravens run defense. And
I lost track. Like I remember it was the third quarter or something, and Collinsworth or whoever mentions the amount of yards we have so far, and I'm like, that's this game. That's tonight. It was like something around 160 between Najee and Jaylen Warren, and I was like, oh wow, they're really going off.
Yeah, they are. And let's see. Tony Dungy had a pretty solid tweet out here in Twitterland too that I'll bring up. In fact, Tony Dungy, of course, picked the Steelers to win the pregame. So did a lot of people. I was kind of surprised the Sunday Night Football people. There were a few that just said they were going against the chalk. So they didn't want to go with it, and they were trying to get their win, their little feather in their cap.
Oh, their individual show records they do.
Yeah. So I think they went contrarian just for that purpose. So let's see. This was actually a subtweet. So let's start with, we said on our Sunday Night Football NBC pregame show that Mike Tomlin had the Steelers practice in full pads on Friday to emphasize fundamentals and technique. It paid off. Their run game was more effective than the Raiders tonight, and that was the difference. Then he says in week 14, the Ravens outgained the Steelers on the ground, 215 yards to 65. Last night, the Steelers turned it around, gaining 198 to 120. Emphasis in practice was on being physical, and the Steelers kept their playoff hopes alive. They also have to be thrilled with Clutch Kenny Pickett. I think that's a nickname that could stick. I don't want to put too much on the young man just yet. Kenny Clutch. Kenneth Shane. I like saying that. It makes him like the Stone Cold Killer, man. He can't break the glass. Play Steve Austin's music. He's gonna just come out there like Vince Williams at training camp a few seasons ago.
Kenneth Shane, bring the pain.
Yeah, there you go, man. The 100 courtesy of Michael Birch, Steelers PR Mike, 198 rushing yards as a team are the most in a single game versus Baltimore since week 6, 1997. So in this series,
Boston's playing.
Yeah, pretty much you got to go all the way back to the Ravens just moving from Cleveland almost. 198 yards. And there's some more somewhere if I happen to cherry pick them as I'm looking around. Prior to this season, no team had rebounded from 2-8 to 8-8 since the Steelers in 2013. However, the Steelers, the Lions, and the Jags have all done it this season. How about that? Everyone was writing this team off at the bye. We weren't writing this team off at the bye. So that begs the question, Zach, And when we start talking about Mike Tomlin and the job that he has done as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this could be one of his finest jobs of all time. And now people are starting to give him credit for it. And you look at all the turmoil he had with not having TJ Watt as defensive player of the year, some other injuries, the quarterback position, back and forth, Trubisky to a rookie and Kenny Pickett. And now look at what they're still in the conversation the last week of the season. I mean, hats off. I think Ryan Clark went out there and said something. Can you all stop talking about firing Mike Tomlin or something like that? He tweeted out last night right after the game. And I'm like, hallelujah. But you're preaching to the choir, man. There's still some folks out there. They're going to want to see and revel in the Browns beating the Steelers at home and Mike Tomlin having his first losing season. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it happening whatsoever. I saw Deshaun Watson throw a pass to Jack Conklin, an ineligible receiver tackle. Like, this guy's been in the league for how many years, and he was running for his life in a crappy, I mean, Washington's defensive front's no joke, mind you, but geez, Carson Wentz. There's a guy I don't ever want to see anywhere near a Steelers roster. I said what I said about Mitch Trubisky, but Carson Wentz, boy, they shat the bed over there in Washington against the Browns also. But there's too many people that revel in this. Mike Tomlin, once again, getting it done in the playoff conversation like he always is. They're either the last team in or the last team looking from the outside looking in, just missing the cusp, and they're going to be in that position once again as they head into this weekend, and hopefully some of the dominoes fall as they may. Hopefully Buffalo still has something to play for and doesn't let New England skate in. And there's some pride things. These are divisional games that are coming up, so everybody's playing somebody within their own division. I think Mike Tomlin, a lot of yins out there had a lot of nasty things to say about Coach, and I think it's time to start sending some apology letters, some apology notes, maybe a bouquet of flowers about the way that this season has been handled.
A lot of his former players do that. They love to come out when the cards are getting stacked against Tomlin and sing his praises. And you understand why, because that's what everybody always says about him. You know, players coach, his players love him. And a lot of his criticism and a lot of his naysayers are in-house from his own fan base. You know, when I say in-house, I mean the Steeler fan base, not the Steeler organization. And albeit I have said myself that there were times this year where, and there are times every year where Tomlin makes mistakes and there are reasons to yell at him on your television screen. And there's definitely times where it's appropriate, and I can reason with people that get annoyed with certain things that Tomlin does, whether it's in-game decisions, mistakes he'll make with the clock, certain decisions with player personnel, changing things, not changing things. He's a flawed man, but every NFL coach is flawed. Every good NFL coach is flawed. So you take the good with the bad with Tomlin, because when you stick with them, this is the result. We're watching meaningful football with a week left to play, with the horrendous start that we had. You know, I think that Tomlin and company fumbled the quarterback situation. I think it was stupid to assume that Mitch was just going to have the job all year and not really give Kenny hardly any number one reps in training camp and in the preseason. And as a result, it was a slow start for Kenny Pickett in this offense when he finally got his opportunity. It came in with the spark, and then it got a little stale, and now he's back to where right now what we're seeing from Kenny Pickett these last 4 games, this is where we should have been on track for about mid-season if they had made the right call and just given Kenny a real opportunity in the quarterback competition and given him real number one reps and started him right away. Instead, they went with Mitch, pitter-pattered, beat around the bush, beat around the Mitch, and as a result, the offense had a slower start, and we're here now. So that's a mistake that Tomlin and company made, but he righted the ship, and you can see how the Steelers want to play for him every time whenever there's a game like this, with the post-game videos and everyone dancing.
Oh, I've got it. I'm pull it right up right now. Yeah, let's play it, man. I had it. I don't have. I might not have the full audio
That's
pipe it
okay.
in
You can
on that.
imagine what the song is: to take over your trap, walk in your trap. Look at that. He knows.
That's just great, man. Except it's like mirrored or flipped or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. And what are they saying? The old heads. I heard Chris Collinsworth use that word yesterday. Actually, the old heads would be very upset over that. But you got to give credit where it's due for Coach Tomlin. So.
And I saw the thing on Twitter today. He's coached 256 games and counting. There's been one game in those 256 games under Tomlin where the Steelers were playing a game in which we weren't in playoff contention or fighting for a playoff spot or alive. One game in those 256 games.
Yeah. Speaking of, and we'll get to the defense, TJ Watt said, how about them effing Steelers? And he said the actual word that you usually say.
Where? When did he say that?
Somebody got him. One of the DK Sports Pittsburgh guys. One of Dejan's.
Was he in the locker room?
Yeah. It was out in the tunnel or something like that. Walked by. How about those freaking Steelers? So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
man.
you still
I love
can
hearing
get me.
TJ get out of his shell. I'm surprised he even knew what that word was.
Yeah. But Najee, his first 100-yard game of the season, people were talking about that's maybe the most dominant that they've ever seen him to.
That's what Collinsworth said.
Yeah. And it's and that was probably the toughest run defense that they would see all season, and they just made it look like child's play. And you got to talk what adjustments Mike Tomlin made, some of the zone blocking scheme. They looked like alive, man. And the 1-2 punch, going away from the whole bell cow thing, like. A lot of people talk about that he's set in his ways, that he's incapable of changing things up. Yeah, everybody wanted to fire Matt Canada, which I still don't know that he has any job security whatsoever, and I won't defend him one bit.
Yeah, Canada's it's a tough deal. Trying to pick a side of that situation right now.
Yeah, it really is. And Matt Canada, of course, is our next topic of discussion here, because there's good and there's bad, as we could always say, when it comes to the play calling. The actual plays themselves, for the most part, everything was pretty fluid and solid. George Pickens, you got to keep your feet in bounds, dude. His, I won't say as much as Deontay making what was a pinpoint precision pass to him in his hands. Just couldn't get the second foot down. All right, man. I mean, we're expecting... I know, dude,
when the ref calls it so fast like that, too, the ref was like confidently doing like, that's a catch. And I was like, oh, nice, man. I didn't think it was. And then they show the replay, and I'm like, no, I was right. It's not. The ref got me all excited.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? And we got to give. Hold on, I got to go back to the. I'm finding things as I go along, and this one was from the Steelers social media team with SpongeBob and Patrick. Look at that, the stat. Ravens defense has not allowed a TD at home in the last 15 quarters. It was the longest streak in the NFL since the 2005 Chicago Bears. That was the Super Bowl team, I believe. That Bears team with like Rex Grossman, if I'm thinking correctly. So
what year was it? 2006?
2005. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because it was the 05 season.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right against the Colts. So, anyways, where was I at? We were talking about this. You, me, Brian, off and on. We were talking about how Lev Bell being wide receiver 2 as a running back was one of the missing key contributing components to this offense. And guess what? Guess what happens, man? Najee Harris, game-winning touchdown off of a pass, extended play, beats Roquan Smith. Just unbelievable stuff. And I was pounding my fist at a few of these plays, because I'm like, hey, find so-and-so, find so-and-so, find this and that. So Matt Canada, but I have to go through the game book when it comes to Matt Canada on one specific deal here. And I know Mark Cabali had also pointed this out, but we yell about this, right? They had incomplete pass for Deontay Johnson, 1st and 10 from the Baltimore 12, okay? This was after converting a 3rd and 1. Kenny lays out. Najee gives him a little... I don't know, man. He was getting a little bit too close.
Oh, that was so funny, dude. I never seen that. He picked him up and dropped him down like his own little kid. He was like, all right, no, go this way. And boom, first down. It was hilarious.
He looked
maybe not as funny if it wouldn't have worked, but in the moment I was laughing.
He looked like, I thought he was about to dry hump him. Like he was getting in position, just grabbing him like around the hips. I'm like, you know,
The old Rashard Mendenhall.
yeah, woo, a little poke there. Najee, excited to see me, buddy. You're gonna.
I think Canada deserves a little bit of credit, but also listen to how we're talking though. It's like Najee's playing so good now. Kenny's getting it. Like the line's gelling. I think it's a little bit to do with the players themselves rising to the occasion as well. And unfortunately for Canada, that's nothing he can control. But I'm very aware of that when talking about, oh, Canada's not doing so bad now all of a sudden. Well, it definitely helps that the players he's coaching seem to be rising their level of play it seemingly at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Boswell misses a field goal. You didn't execute in certain spots. So the other team's capable of playing good football, has a solid defense. A lot of those things are contributing factors too, to where I just can't dump on. Like I said, George Pickett needs to know where the boundary lines are, because that was a hell of a throw. And you know, oh my goodness, his one catch too. What was that, 3rd and like 14 or whatever?
Yeah. And Najee and using Najee in the pass game, like
yeah.
We're big Kenny guys. I'm 100% sure of that. But like, how much of him not being involved in the pass game throughout the early parts of the season, like, was that like Kenny just trying to not check down to him, trying not to use him, or was it Canada just not scheming up plays enough for him being a high enough checkpoint in Kenny's reads? Because if Najee's going to be like the 3rd or 4th read, I can see like not going to him. But if they switched it up and made him like a higher read, you know?
Yeah, no, I know. I've got it for you though. I've got it for you. I know, and I see it, and I know why the running backs have not been involved, including Jaylen Warren. Pass protection, offensive line. As much as you want to say, pass protection. Chuks Okorafor did not have a good game yesterday. He was getting beat like a revolving door. And you would notice Jaylen Warren or even Najee, but a lot of times it's Warren that's in there. I think Warren's an even better blocker than what Najee is. They're both willing. Would chip on that right side of the line. Usually it's the left side, or you know, they're
so out of necessity they wouldn't have been out for many routes.
Correct. You can't squeak out a whole lot. Whereas when Baltimore's kind of laying back a little bit, maybe not bringing as much pressure later in that game, hey, we got to force the rookie quarterback to go down the field, make a play. Steelers need a touchdown to win. Now you don't need that extra body, and that's a lot of times why you don't see Zach Gentry or even Freiermuth might be a little slower to develop, because if you have to chip somebody, that's going to take. They're talking about quick releases and stuff. That takes a guy out of a play, sometimes entirely, let alone like maybe for a second or two. That may give these fast players on the other side the speed game a little bit of an advantage. That's a good point.
I mean, Pierre-Paul almost had Kenny for the sack on the touchdown play, and then Kenny shrugged him off like constructive criticism. It was beautiful. But anyway, he did get there almost right away. I think that was Dan Moore that he beat, if I'm not mistaken. And Pierre-Paul's like an old dude, you know, and I'm not trying to, you know,
wily
pick on
veteran.
Him for this. What's up?
Wily veteran, though. He knows how to beat somebody like of a lesser, what would you say, experience or talent.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah. No,
Moore,
he's still,
sure.
When I saw that he went there, I was kind of like bummed. That's a typical Ravens move. They love signing those like veterans that got a little bit left in the tank. But I think if Pierre-Paul had all his fingers, he might have grabbed Kenny's jersey and pulled him down, because he grabbed with the hand that's missing like 2. So you think about that. Not to take anything away from Kenny. You know, it's a great play, incredible play. But I think if Pierre-Paul might have had all 5 of his digits, he might have grabbed them all the way down.
Oh, man. Rotten. Jumping back, though.
Go back and look at that and tell me you don't have that thought. Just try to zoom in on his hand.
I had a thought, and we'll talk about it with the Steelers defense later. Remind me about number 34, because there was something that there was a few times where you watch. I know you do just the same as I do. You watch these games and you know what's coming. And there was like a 3rd and 1, I want to say, with the Steelers, and I'm like, okay, is Derek Watt out there?
Oh, that was nice design.
Like, yeah, and they keep finding ways to do those small, short, like little fullback counters that just gain a yard or 2. He plows through for 2 or 3, actually.
He was going like in motion, right?
Yeah. He'll be back next year. Don't bitch about whatever he gets paid. Steelers 1st and 10 from the Baltimore 12. Incomplete pass intended for Deontay Johnson. 2nd and 10, and I know a lot of people would get upset about this, but Najee Harris, 2-yard run, forcing the Baltimore Ravens to use their final timeout, because the Steelers are going to use 2 downs regardless in this situation now. And there is also the possibility that they get down to like the 2-yard line or whatever and still gain another first down, even if they're short of the goal line. So they had some opportunities there, but it didn't matter because Najee ends up extending this third down play for the game winner here. That was genius, though. Baltimore was left without any timeouts. Mike Tomlin didn't panic at all about the clock. He was letting it tick, tick, tick. We're going to talk a little bit about some officiating things that drove me crazy at the end of the first half, that this game shouldn't have probably gotten into this specific mode to begin with. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I don't want to say necessarily completely flawless game. The Steelers had their myriad of penalties that were shooting themselves in the foot. But as far as Matt Canada is concerned, that one I think he should get some credit for. Even if it was Mike Tomlin running there, took a lot of guts, and they'd been running the ball very well. So why the hell not? So now I want to jump on to, we talked about the Steelers run game. It's all the way at the bottom here. We're probably not going to talk about it that much more anyways now, but the Steelers defense and the officiating are going to go almost kind of hand in hand here. There was a play where I ID'd where Terrell Edmunds was on the field, and I was looking at number 89, Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews is like at the bottom of the screen, so he's on the right side of the formation. Terrell Edmunds is opposite, playing off the line of scrimmage, of course, in the defensive backfield. I said, oh, man, I hope this ball doesn't go to Mark Andrews. Who else can be a safety blanket for someone like Snoop Huntley and Isaiah Likely? And this was said on the broadcast, too. Comes down with this ball, and Baltimore probably puts another 3 up with Justin Tucker's leg instead of being a potential field goal attempt where his dude could kick it from anywhere on the field. You end up with Baltimore punting the ball back. I was constantly worried throughout this game about whether or not Baltimore was going to get the ball and it be the last time somebody touches the football and they just run out the clock. And to much the Steelers' defense and their credit, they showed up, and they showed up big time, brother. The one of these plays, I'm trying to think. That was the one that was a 3 and out in the fourth quarter. This was after Chris Boswell had kicked a 33-yard field goal. You're holding your breath a little bit. Steelers force a 3 and out. J.K. Dobbins loses 2 yards, 2 incomplete passes from Huntley. That one with Terrell Edmunds breaking up the pass to Isaiah Likely, the tight end. And the Steelers end up with their ball on their own 8-yard line. They're not really able to materialize much of anything on this one. Kenny Pickett takes a pretty bad sack. Boy, the field sucked, didn't it?
Harbaugh, that early play when he went down, him and Najee clicked heels and he fell down. That was one of the ugliest sights I ever seen.
Yeah, and Harbaugh is one to always complain about the field in Pittsburgh, the surface. What'd they do? Run the sprinklers there or something? There were guys slipping and sliding all over the grass there at M&T Bank yesterday. So, the Steelers end up punting the ball back. It's 6:32 remaining in the game, and I'm like, okay, defense, let's see what you got. Short pass from Huntley to Mark Andrews, 4-yard gain.
No one else, literally.
Yes, J.K. Dobbins, 4 yards. It's 3rd and 2, and Dobbins gets absolutely crushed. Cam Hayward breaking through. But how about number 93, Mark Robinson, who I saw from the very first play? I knew there was still something wrong with Miles Jack. I got to look in the game book and see if Jack really even played much. But it was Mark Robinson and Robert Spillane.
I know, man. They were killing it. Big Bob Spillane shutting me the fuck up, dude. I mean, we were playing the Ravens who run the ball a lot. But I won't take anything away though from Spillane. It was a great game on his part. He had Collinsworth going on and on about him for a 10-minute period. He looked cool with the black visor. That's Spillane at his peak, man. Playing a run-heavy team, he can be a good player for you. It's kind of a specific scenario and doesn't happen a lot in today's NFL. But against the Ravens, Spillane can shine, which coincidentally is his famous pick 6 he got versus the Ravens 2 years ago or whenever that was.
Yeah.
But I was so psyched to see Robinson on the field, more importantly, because he'd been a name that whether you know ball or not, fans have been kind of bringing up for the past few weeks. Why don't we just see this guy on the field? Why doesn't he get out there? Because there's you can't see everything as a fan. We don't know how every practice session is going. We don't know how guys are, whether or not they're getting the playbook or not. But all signs pointed to, man, this kid can help with something, at least with run defense, because he did have such a good preseason, and he has been popping off on tape whenever we get the chance to actually see him. He loves to come downhill, very physical tackler. His instincts seem pretty good. He's always in the right hole whenever he's out there. That's what she said. And he has a demeanor about him that the rest of the defense seems to enjoy. From what I could gather, the rest of the linebacking core, whenever Robinson would make a play, was right there, dapping him up, slapping him on the head. I was really excited about what I was seeing from Mark Robinson in the limited time that he was given. And Cam Hayward continues to have his monstrous second half of the season, regardless of that call or not. He came through in a big way for us yesterday, and without him, the defense is night and day different. So that's not telling anybody anything new. Everybody knows Cam Hayward is legit, but last night was just another feather in his cap, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. Cam Hayward, well, we're going to get to that because the last topic is going to be talking about the officiating, but just to stay on, Robert Spillane, man, plays the entire game. Again, 52 defensive plays. Usually that's reserved for only defensive backs, usually the safeties. They didn't even use, Minka came out a few plays. Edmonds came out several plays. A couple plays there too. Alex Highsmith plays the entire game as well. And Mark Robinson outsnaps 26 defensive plays, outsnaps Miles Jack and Devin Bush combined for 6 and 5 for a combined 11 snaps. Almost doubles it.
I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him on the field, but that's a bit extreme, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That makes you think something has to be wrong with Jack and Bush, if not one or not both of them, because I was excited to see Robinson out there, but that's quite the they really tossed him in the deep end, huh?
Well, they weren't worried about getting beat in a pass game with those two.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Pass game and pass assignments. I can't speak for how much lateral speed or anything that Mark Robinson has, but it sure as hell should tip the cap as to where the Steelers are going to go in the draft. They're still looking for their Ryan Shazier replacement. And Miles Jack has not been a 3-down backer this year. Devin Bush, I don't know that he has a future with the team. Mark Robinson, boy, he put some statement stuff out there for a guy that was playing running back 2 years ago. Had like 1 year in college as a linebacker and looks like a missile coming through the line. There was another play. Got it on my phone. I should have it here. Try and look it up. See if I could find the image. But there was a holding call that, I do have it, dude. I'm going to pull this sucker up if I can. There was a non-call on a hold, I should say. And it was with Robinson. It was one of these J.K. Dobbins plays that, if you take a good look at this as best you can, Robinson gets spun around like a top. He's completely bear hugged, held around the top of his head, etc.
Oh, yeah, you can't even see his jersey number because the dude's hand is on the 9-3.
Yeah, he's got him so wrapped up. I was livid. This is going into our next topic, of course, which will be officiating.
You know what? I have to interrupt politely, but
yeah.
You said that might have tipped their hands in the draft / free agency because Tremaine Edmonds is going to be a free agent from Buffalo. And it's no secret the Steelers love those bloodlines. I don't know if we're going to have Terrell or not after this year. I mean, I hope he stays, but I think other Edmonds, Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker from Buffalo, he might be one of their white whales this year, and they might sniff around him a little bit. Don't know if they'll be able to bring him in, but I do agree that the way this year went, I think there will be some sort of new linebacker in town next year because, unfortunately, Bush and Jack, I think they're solid, and I'm still open to the idea. I mean, Jack is signed for next year. I'm open to the idea of Bush possibly coming back on a cheap deal. They're just so painfully average. We have no playmaking at that spot.
Yes.
That's why Robinson was so exciting to watch yesterday from a perspective of like, oh, he's popping dudes. He's really flying around out there. He didn't do anything out of this world special, but it was a level above what we've seen all year. So I think you're spot on that they're going to look to do something in that room.
You know, how Mike Tomlin is it of Mike Tomlin to find a guy? They do this all the damn time. Guys that are like athletes and they identify, you'd be much better at this position. And I know Robinson was playing some linebacker in college.
Just for 1 year, though.
Yeah, I know. And Zach Gentry was a quarterback in college. They converted to tight end. And they find them and they continue to develop them into pretty solid contributing pro players. This happened with Rosie Nix as a fullback. He was a nose tackle. Totally undersized. Play that position at the NFL level. And Alejandro Villanueva, who played like 4 different positions. Nobody knew quite where to put him. They just knew he was a mountain of a man. That's what Tomlin likes as well. He likes his Andre the Giant type guys. Zach Banner. There's probably some other countless. If you can find
large
somebody,
physical presences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Zach Gentry's not exactly small either. What is he, like 6'7", 6'8"? I mean,
I think he's 6'9", dude.
He's 6'9". Nice. That's great. That's a great question, though. Like
it's like a fish story with Zach Gentry's height, dude. I don't know. I might be wrong on that.
I got to look it up because it will bug the hell out of me if I don't end up finding it. 6'8", 6'8", 265.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Imagine that dude as a quarterback. Like you talk about, people are worried about like Kenny, and they're like, because he's still evasive enough. I know he's not like Ben where you hit him and it's like hitting a brick wall. It's like the rough and tumble games I was talking about with the brick wall. That's like playing with Ben. You just bounce off him like he's wearing a rubber suit. Kenny might not be that way, but Zach Gentry, like that would be like maybe not the most
Kenny's more snaky, like Ken Stabler. Like he might not bounce dudes off him, but he gets around dudes and shrugs guys off in a very evasive way. His escapability is one of his best parts of his game right now as a young quarterback. It's a big part of why he's been able to have success in this early part of his career, because sometimes whether he's breaking the pocket too early or not, that's where he has a lot of his success, is after the play kind of goes out of structure a bit, which Josh Allen was very similar to that. Very, very similar to that his rookie year, where he one of his best attributes was his escapability, his break tackle ability, his ability to make plays out of nothing after he has to leave the pocket. And a lot of critics said, he's leaving the pocket too early. He's got to fix that. Sometimes there's a throw already in there. So Kenny's kind of doing the same thing, where he doesn't always have to leave the pocket, but when he does, it's usually a good thing. So they can work with him and get him to be more comfortable in the pocket. It's not a thing I'm necessarily worried about, but yeah, it reminds me of kind of like, Kenny Stabler or Jake Plummer, not the biggest guys, but like still very good at avoiding the rush and breaking the pocket. Great hair on all 3 guys. The similarities are there.
Oh, I can't speak for hair.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Speak for both of us.
There was a number of just what in the hell were the referees doing yesterday. We were talking about that. We were talking about this. It seemed like, and I've said this before, I don't like to cry about officiating necessarily, but this was one that I felt like a number of these calls were game critical and could have seen it go the other way. Of course, this was one, and I know a still photo doesn't do everything justice. Go find it somewhere, or else YouTube flags us for copyright infringement. But if you were able to see this live, I mean, it just gets that was where the hole opened up, completely grabbed and spun Robinson around. There was a lot of different holds that I noticed. Cam Hayward getting held, TJ Watt getting held, and I felt like Harbaugh, and it wouldn't be beneath either one of them. Of course, the other guy from that university up north also losing. 2 great college games Saturday, just not one of them had the result I wanted and the other didn't. With Ohio State losing, what a heartbreaker. And then you talk about kickers, college level. It's like, I know some people thought a 50-yarder might be a gimme. Not at the college level. It's not always at the pro level either. But
no, dude, take it from a gambler. College kicking's terrible. Like they miss all the time if it's like farther than like 35 yards.
35. I mean, when they're trotting somebody out there, it's wearing like 87 as their kicker or 91. That's forget about it. Don't even like think that's a gimme. Those are the inverse. Like when you talk about number games and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty ice cold, man. That dude's gonna kill it wearing whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about Robinson wearing 93. To be honest, like that one still feels a little Joe Schobert-ish.
It's not the best. It could be better, but I mean, it's all about how you rock it. It's an awkward looking number for a linebacker. Absolutely. I thought the same thing when Jason Worlds was wearing it. It just doesn't pop right.
Yeah, it doesn't. It feels more like a defensive lineman. Now,
absolutely.
Now, TJ could certainly rock 90. Spillane makes 41 work, 51, like 55. But a single-digit number on inside linebacker is pretty cool, or a corner. But
yeah, that'd be sick, dude.
You've got. I like that the NFL opened that up, but like in the college game, I just see somebody coming out with like 98. I'm like, that's a number nobody wanted. They're like, here you go. I'm like, this guy, he probably kicks on the side, like playing beer pong and.
Well, the kickers and punters get kind of screwed at most schools because they give them last choice. That's why you see a lot of them wear those like ugly numbers.
Yeah. But anyways, it felt like Harbaugh had a cheat to win mentality. They bet or know like obscure areas within the rules. We've seen their offense for many years play the Joe Flacco ball where they just throw it deep and hope for a pass interference call, and that's how they moved downfield. They led the league, and I know this is verifiable information. There was a 5-year period there, I think even when they won the Super Bowl 2012, where they were like first in the league, I think 3 of the 5 years, second and third in the other 2 with gaining pass interference calls using their offense. Torrey Smith just even the ball. We saw that play where they took the safety on purpose in the Super Bowl, and
it was Harbaugh's Belichick moment when he realized, I found a way to kind of bend the rules, and it works 90% of the time. You just say, Joe Flacco, just throw it deep. I don't care if it's completed. Like try to angle it out of bounds so it at least isn't picked, but just make it catchable, and we'll get a penalty off it. It was a very frustrating thing to see. And there's a reason why it's a joke to this day that the Ravens were so good at doing that, in particular with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I felt like it was just keep doing it until they catch us or make us stop. Exactly. And you saw Tyler Linderbaum. Be careful over there, man.
How bad?
Knock over the
studio's falling apart.
The ice bucket. Is that ball signed?
Oh yeah, dude. That was a Christmas gift from my mom. Check it out.
Oh, there you go. Big Ben. Awesome. You know what? I have that same ball sitting back here with no signatures. Up here when I have camera 2 running, you could see my kicker. Oh yeah,
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. So awesome. The gift keeps on giving. Anyways, back to the cheats that are the Harbs. Linderbaum got tagged with it finally at the end of the game, and I was like, Nelson off the Simpsons.
That was huge. That was a huge penalty, man.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And the whole first half, I was screaming and yelling at the TV, but nothing made me feel more disgusted than the incident with Cam Hayward, where he made a tackle. J.K. Dobbins is running the ball. Got guys like looking around like, what the hell just happened here? And he's trying to get off a pile, but he's gotten pulled, I think, by maybe Zeitler. His arm, he gets pulled a first time, which causes him to kind of fall on top of everyone as he was originally getting up. And then he gets dragged down from the front of his jersey, and they call a freaking penalty. That is a 3rd down play going to 4th down, and the field goal unit coming out to what might have been the deciding points in this one entirely, as Baltimore is able to get a fresh set of downs, 1st down, and at the end of the half, score a touchdown. This is the worst call I've seen since Joe Hayden's phantom pass interference call against the Saints back in 2018 in New Orleans. And that's right up there with like Jesse caught it. Most people will forget this because the Steelers won the game. But if they would have lost the game, this is all you would be talking about. Everyone would be talking about this morning on all the various different shows is, what the hell is the guy supposed to do in this situation?
Just like those other plays you mentioned. We talked about them. To this day, we talk about those plays because they cost us the games. in those scenarios, man. The Joe Hayden non-push pass interference, the Jesse Cauditt game in which he did catch it. That it's stuff like that that you talk about for years. You tell your grandkids about how your team got absolutely screwed by the referees, and it looks so awkward on the replay every single time. How could you think that a human body just like flops like that? It was very clear that he didn't fall like on his own, you know? And I saw it on the sideline. Like Minka was pissed, and Cam and Minka, they weren't fighting, but Minka said something. You can use your imagination to Cam. It seemed like along the lines of, you could just guess, like, hey, come on, man, we can't afford that. Or like, use your head, Cam. Like, we got to be bigger than that. Cam was very quick to snap around, turn his head, and his look of like, dude, I didn't do anything. Like, speaking as from someone who's been accused of doing many things in his life that he hasn't done, I could see it in Cam's face that he was being genuine with his teammates and like with the officiating. Like, listen, dude, I'm getting a bad rap here. I didn't do what they're saying I did. You know, I didn't do an unsportsmanlike conduct. That specifically, when you're accused of like, because this has happened to me before. If you like, oh, you were showboating, you were high stepping, you gloated after the play, oh, you shoved this dude, and you didn't actually do it. You feel like you're like being punked. You're like, is this really how it looked? Because I didn't do it. I'm sure a couple, I swear on my life, came out of Cam, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
it just seems so genuine that Cam really didn't think he did anything wrong. That, I mean, from the jump with the awkward body movement, it shouldn't have been called, especially in the circumstance of the game in which it was. That's the refs making it about themselves, man.
That's the worst part of it is, if you're going to throw a flag there, throw two. Throw offsetting, let them know. Yeah. Unsportsmanlike. If these are the penalties that accumulate toward ejection, then okay, throw two, offsetting, and you have not impacted the game whatsoever. This one for me was just, it was uncalled for. I was screaming and yelling on Twitter, practically dropping F-bombs.
I'm sure, man.
Oh, I know I wasn't the only one, but I usually don't put anything out there that maybe potential future employers can go back and look at and see on my social media. This one I let rip, man. This one I let rip, because that was just, I said it was grade A unadulterated bullshit, and that's exactly what it was. That's the worst call I've seen all year.
I'll have to go back and give that a like, dude. I actually wasn't on Twitter much trying to keep my head clear, but I'll go back and give that a like.
I know. I try and completely stay off of social media during games. The
game like that, I knew what I was going to see, because I didn't think Kenny was doing that much wrong, but the offense was being so like run heavy, and there really wasn't a whole lot going through the air. I knew if I pulled up Twitter, it was going to be like, Kenny this, Kenny that. Oh, you can't get it done. So I just saved myself the mental stress. And then at the end, after we won, then I pulled Twitter up.
Yeah, and you know what? The Baltimore had the ball. 3:30 left in the first half, and they were able to send they had a false start. Dobbins runs for 17 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards.
He was tearing us up, dude.
He was 12 yards. Then Gus Edwards gives him a spell, 2 yards. Mark Andrews for 9 yards.
Favorite player. I might not play fantasy football next year. We'll see.
A timeout by Baltimore, a pass lost 6 yards. Isaiah Likely, timeout, 3rd and 16. Dobbins heads up with 7 yards, but it's going to be 4th and 9 from, let me see, doing the quick math, the 12 to 13 from Baltimore's own 13 with about 11 seconds to go. And this is the thing that gets me. Well, 22 seconds, I should say, was what was on the clock. And at 11, they end up snapping this ball for the kick, but they stopped the clock, and the referees basically gave them a free timeout, and there wasn't any kind of delay thing or anything. This was a mess because, number one, the officials, they need to be on top of this. What is their job?
Number one, because the officials wanted the Ravens to win.
I'm never going to say that. But perception could be reality, and that looks really bad on the Zebras. It looks really bad on the Zebras that you stop the game and allow them to get all their shit together here and give them a fresh set of downs, and now they score a touchdown instead of going for a field goal attempt. And this makes the game 10-3 instead of 6-3. It's a
hand up. I thought we lost at that point. I was pretty upset. I was like, man, at the rate this game's going, that's going to be the deciding factor of the game, is that penalty and that free touchdown they gave him. I have like a halftime routine where I try to like decompress and relax for a minute, gather my thoughts. I didn't even move from the couch. I just kind of sat there.
I'm telling you, I was so angry. The dog was waiting to be walked. And I'm like, you got to wait till halftime. And like, I just went out there and I was stomping around. Whereas at the end of the game, and you got Kenny Clutch, Comeback, Pickett, we'll keep adding names to his name. And I told the dog, we're going to go run around the whole freaking neighborhood if they win this game. And the dog's doing a little like dance, running in circles in the living room. I was off the couch. I was going nuts.
Dog's like, I didn't forget what you said, dude. Whole neighborhood.
Come on, let's go. And we did. I was out there in shorts at midnight. And it was some fun stuff, man.
Cardiac Kenny.
Cardiac. No, I can't do the cardiac because the Browns had the cardiac kids or whatever, and I'll stay away from that, using that term.
Oh, I thought it was a cardiac cats with the Bengals or whatever. Everybody uses the cardiac.
Cardiac kitties. We'll see what ends up happening with them, man. I don't know.
I need T. Higgins to go off tonight for one last. He's my last player. I'm down 19. I need T. Higgins to get 20 points, which is manageable for him in that offense. So we'll see.
Well, I'll leave it at that.
Catch me rooting for the Bengals much more often than that.
I'm up like 80 points in the SCU league, so I'm sitting firm. Thanks to
Must
Mike.
Be nice.
Well, I played Mike Evans in one league and not in the other, and that's what made a difference. So I had no choice. I was forced to play Mike Evans, and that turned out to be an okay decision. I
love when that happens, dude, because I get in my way. I get in my own way more than anything else in fantasy. So when a guy is determined to be out for the game to make my decision easier, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was grabbing a coffee, man.
I went and got Dunkin' this morning.
Oh, there you go. The big boy. I got the Panera Club thing. I'll run down there every so often and grab a coffee off the membership, but
they're pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. But you know what? Actually, that's a good segue to end the show. My sister-in-law got me this 12 coffees of Christmas. So today is like gingerbread cookie. Yesterday was Santa blend. The gingerbread cookie, they're both pretty solid so far. It's one of these, I'm pretty sure she got it at the Giant Eagle. And,
Cherry Joe's.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, pretty good. So if you see it out there on clearance or something, don't sleep on it. It's like a 12-pack of K-Cups. Pretty good.
Sounds good.
There's one that's like a butternut rum. Then there's like an eggnog. And I'm like,
I'm not a big eggnog guy.
No, not at all. It might be a pump and dump type thing there. So, did you get any pork for New Year's?
Any what?
Pork.
Oh, pork.
Good luck.
Did I have any pork on New Year's? No, I don't think I did, actually. I kept it pretty chill on New Year's. I didn't even like go out. My girlfriend wanted to go out with her friends for a little bit, so I was like, have fun, take pictures.
Yeah.
Send a postcard.
With another dude on it.
All right. That's a bit much.
Hey.
It was Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. And you know what?
I saw Kenny at the bar. Like, oh, sick.
Oh my God. My cousin saw him at didn't they play some March Madness games over at PPG this past
yeah,
tournament?
probably.
Yeah, I think that's where it was, or was it an ACC tournament or whatever. He was there and took a picture with Kenny.
Nice.
And it was like, I get constantly reminded, I'm like, you've got such a bromance for that guy. But a few of you are out there sneaking in my DMs and my comments, and the folks that said you guys knew all along. It's almost like you're apologizing or at least coming around, or there's a few varieties of it, like, hey, I was wrong about this guy. They might have the guy. And we'll see. Like a lot of people.
It's like that meme of the cat that's like, "Go stop." Okay, go on. Keep going.
Exactly. So, hey, I'm not going to extol everything for first year rookie and everything like that. We got to continue to see stuff into year 2. But man, does it seem very promising. You're not going to waste the off season with a different quarterback there. You're going to have Kenny there, working on his timing and everything. And this season's still not done. You imagine they get in the postseason. And
absolutely.
You've got Peter Schrager out there on Good Morning Football saying, does anybody really want to see the Steelers and the Steelers defense right now
They say too, with rookies and young players, the more playoff experience you can get them young at a young age, the better. Sounds kind of obvious and stupid, but it really does help accelerate the development process because everything is more intense, everything means more, everything is more important with the playoffs. It's just it's a great learning experience for young guys. I mean, I think it's helping Najee have such a good end of the season right now because he knows what it takes to get to the playoffs because of last year, Freiermuth as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right in that assessment. Steelers defense right now, closing thought. Overall, they have given up, let's see, 10. They gave up 37 to Cincinnati, which is by far the most. That's the only team they've given up more than 20 points against since the bye week, man. And that's just
playmakers like T. Higgins out there.
Yeah, 17, 3 games in a row where they give up 16, and then 10, and then 13. And if you take that 8-game span right now, 16.8 per game. And if you want to go one step further with this, if we take just the Cincinnati game out off of a curve, in 7 of those 8 games, they're only giving up 14 points. And I did not.
We score 17, we win.
Yeah. So, and they're capable of doing so. The T. Higgins comment wasn't lost on me. I believe he's a free agent for next year. He's going to get paid. He's getting a bag somewhere.
Oh, yeah. He'll be one of those classics. Someone will pay him to be a 1. Yeah. Whether or not, I think he's truly talented. Whether or not he'll work out as a 1 is yet to be seen in someone else's offense. But yeah, I can't wait for him to be out of there because he's a great player. I wanted him here. It's easy to say that now, but I have receipts. Like I wrote a whole mock draft and he was my pick that 1 year, but he went with the first pick of the second round. So to think we were going to get him at 50 or whatever it was, Claypool's year was kind of, I mean, it wasn't that stupid because he was going anywhere from mid-second to early. But coincidentally, right now, the first pick of the second round in 2023 belongs to us.
That's right. That's right.
Which I don't want to forget this.
Well,
the Dolphins don't have a pick in the first round or whatever. So technically, if we have the first pick of the second round, we have the 32nd pick, which ipso facto is basically a first round pick.
Are the Bears number 1 now?
I think that's what I saw. Yeah, after yesterday.
Ooh, let's consult with Tankathon one last time. So much for the last thought. Houston.
Sorry. I didn't want to forget that point.
It looks like Houston might still be in here if this was updated recently, but that's okay. That's still the second pick. That's still the second pick. Second pick of the first, or second pick of the second round is still pick 33.
Yeah. 33.
Yeah, because it'll be 31 in the first round. 30.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna screw with me so bad. Just like, come on, Miami, keep your hands off of whatever. We'll see what ends up happening with them. We got a lot to talk about later. We're gonna put a bow on this show. We'll see if it's still Teddy Bridgewater or Tua against the Jets. Jets defense still isn't any slouch there. So they played, man, the Dolphins played just awful yesterday, which, and so did the Jets. So it wasn't broken.
We need the Jets to win, right?
Need the Jets to win. So the playoff scenario that's still continuing is you need the Jets to defeat Miami in Miami, and then you need to have the Bills beat the Patriots, I believe, in Buffalo, and of course the Steelers. Yeah, I think so. And then the Steelers take care of business against the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to have no cell phone reception at Acrisure Stadium. I presume it's going to be Sunday. They announced the Saturday game, so they're probably all Sunday at 1:00. So I'm not sure if that came out officially yet or not, but I will verify here, so I'm not giving anybody the wrong informations. And still says to be determined on Steelers.com. But for all intents and purposes, when you've got 2 other games and they're all kind of leaning on each other, the NFL for competitive balance, and so one team doesn't get an advantage over another and gets to sit players, they're all going to be played at the same time. And they announced those 2 Saturday games anyway. So that's kind of, I believe it was Tennessee and Jacksonville's one of them, and the other one was Kansas City and Las Vegas Raiders. So, looking at probably Sunday at 1:00, we'll see. And it'll be another one of those. Those are fun, man. As long as it isn't crappy weather. I've been involved in those games where I was up in Cleveland. I mentioned this one where Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Jets had to beat the Bills. Ryan Fitzpatrick was with the Bill or with Wait, which team was he? He played with both of them. He was
Andy
with the Bills
Dalton
at the
had
time.
to beat them, right?
No, I think it was the Jets had to beat the Bills, which didn't seem like it was going to be possible. And Fitzmagic threw 3 picks. It might have been the last time he was in Buffalo. And the Steelers had to win in Cleveland, and they were. And that was one of those things where everybody kind of left the game, and they were down in the lower levels in Cleveland. And all of a sudden, there was like a lot of cheering because we all have everybody's got their phones out. Everybody, and you see the Steelers bench just kind of turn around because they don't know. It hasn't been announced, hasn't been shown in the stadium or anything. And we're saying, you made the playoffs. They made the playoffs. And the word got down there. And all of a sudden now you see it spread like one of those virus things on a map in the movie. And, and it was just like infectious. And me and Brian were talking about that too, trying to hope that Baker Mayfield could have done something with the Browns beating the Ravens that one year. And of course, that bum, that loser, he didn't do anything, didn't do the Steelers any favors. But hey, Jags did it last year against the Colts. And we shall see who the Colts are going to have as a quarterback next year. Probably Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Probably.
Another retread. Another retread. So,
hey, how do you throw a party in space? Remember that was last week?
Oh, yeah.
You plan it. Someone got it in the comments.
Yeah, the 3 Ps, pizza, pop, and parents. That's how you party. So anyways, folks, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, send us hate mail. No, don't do that. You're happy. It's a Victory Monday. We're happy too. We were up real late. We're wired. We're hanging on with just coffee fueling us at this point. Hopefully, if you have the extended holiday, enjoy it. I know it's observed for a lot of people to have today or have Monday off, so have fun, as we always say out there. Well, before I say that, my name's Joe Kuzma. His name's Zach Celedonia. We encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.